video, as y'all wanted from the most recent video poll, we're going to be doing Missed Potential Disventure Characters Pre-Merge Edition. Before we begin though, a few things to note. None of what is said in this video is hate towards Live Nation Cartoons. Their series is absolutely incredible, and I cannot wait to see what comes next. All the footage in the background of this video is Season 1, Episode 1, in case you have not recognized it yet. The characters that are featured in this video will be the following in elimination order: Will, Drew, Nick, Ashley, Lil, Dan. This video is based off of everything until Episode 8. Episode 9 and Episode 13 aren't considered for this video. And in the future, a Part 2 will be made to update opinions / the rewrites and the remaining contestants not in this video, etc. And to finish this section off, major spoilers. Even though if you're already watching this, you should probably, whatever. Anyway, let's just get into this. Will.
Don't worry, I got you. No charge. I can also help you with yours, if you'd like.
Oh, don't worry, I can handle it.
Will had a lot of potential to be a lot more than First Boot. I was theorizing him to make merge before the season. Maybe one day I'll release those predictions because they are very interesting. And here he was, First Boot, which, in my opinion, wasn't entirely his fault. As well, I'm using this as a slight chance to go more in depth with some of the characters, but not Will. Anyway, relationship-wise, Wishley. I finally get a chance to talk about this ship. I absolutely love it. Oh my goodness. I'm sure if Will and Ashley stayed in, it would have easily become canon. It felt so adorable, so organic, and just why do we have to miss out on it? Why? For me, I had two storylines in mind for him. In arc number 1, most of the scenes with him are focused on building his character up and building a relationship with Ashley. And once the two become canon, Fiore does something to get Ashley out. Out for vengeance, Will would then create a rivalry with Fiore, doing everything in his power to beat Fiore. In the semifinals final 3, this would come to a head as Will would beat Fiore in some way that is foreshadowed, and he would make the finale with whoever else. In arc number 2, he mostly would stay as the underdog throughout, kind of like Dan, just unnoticed really, except he would be a little more interesting. He would build a good connection with Ashley, but before it become anything more, basically would take longer to develop. Fiore would eliminate Ashley for figuring her out in some way. Will would be in pure shock and disappointment because the one person he really clicked with is completely gone. And then added scene would be flashed back to, and Will would promise to get revenge for Ashley, like a really sweet scene. He would start talking to others, trying to warn them about Fiore. He would only convince a few, and once Fiore found out, she would threaten him, which would somehow be recorded and revealed to the others. She would then get eliminated, and Will would say some revenge line to Ashley for her, and she would be sent off. In this, Will would get close to the finale, but not quite there. Ashley would be very proud of him, but in this, they're just best friends. They don't become anything more. In this AU, they could probably become canon and all-stars. But yeah, that's just some ideas I had with Will, and I know both include Ashley. But that's where most of his potential truly lies with Ashley. Otherwise, like, if you remove Wishley from the equation, he doesn't have much. I'm sorry. Anyway, Drew.
And what's your name? You haven't introduced yourself. Not a talker? Nice to meet you, I guess.
Drew was so robbed. Brett, I'm offended. Moving on to Drew, he was and still is one of my favorite characters. He might have only had 5 minutes of screen time, but he was such an innocent and adorable little character. And he was so smart. Like, it took him 2 episodes to figure out what Tom was up to, and Jake didn't even think Tom was lying. And I get that's different, but still. After he figured out, right after being voted out, he would figure out that Tom had flipped. That was a tongue twister. That's why I'm confused. Anyway, on to my arc ideas. No relationship with Drew. He didn't have anyone he connected really with on that level, so yeah, no relationship. 2 arcs in mind for Drew here, but in neither he wins. I can't think of Drew as a winner, as much as I really love his character. I'm sorry. In arc number 1, he slowly, across the season, uncovers everything about Tom. This time he isn't as, genius, but doesn't write it down and doesn't tell Soul about any of it. Once merge hits, Fiore would be there as well. Drew would also figure out how fake Fiore was being. Throughout the season, he built up good friendships with Dan and Gabby, so he'd reveal his suspicions with his notepad, sharing clues and evidence he had gathered in his head throughout. Gabby and Dan would doubt at first, but after an episode of convincing would believe him. The 3 would try to secretly eliminate Fiore first, as they see her as the bigger issue. Fiore would somehow figure it out, tell Tom in this universe Jake and Tom aren't fighting it, and they may merge about it. So Tom, Jake, Fiore, and Alec would vote for Drew. Drew gets out here but hugs Gabby and Dan combined, wishing the 2 luck. And before Gabby's idol is brought up, none of them had any clue Fiore was planning this. Or Gabby might have already used the idol. Who knows? In arc number 2, he immediately figures out everything about Tom and goes to tell Jake about it. Jake would laugh in his face, saying he's gone insane and he saw everything wrong. Jake would go and try to laugh about Tom with it, but Tom would say it's true and a huge fight with them ensues. Drew would feel really bad and try and talk, quote-unquote, with Dan and Gabby about it, comforting him and saying it's not his fault. They'd all vote Tom for breaking Jake's heart. I'm sure Miriam or Brett would join the majority. And when merge hits, FYI, Jake would have been voted out by now for being really grumpy, and although I don't blame him for it, it was getting annoying. Drew would uncover Fiore and Gret's evil intentions if it hadn't already, and tell everyone who would listen about it. Only Dan would believe him. Gabby would sorta, but since Gret had been helping her, she's kind of doubtful on that front. Gret and Fiore would realize what Drew had done and try to get him out, but Gabby would figure it out by Gret telling her to vote for Drew. Drew and her had been such a good friendship by now, so she uses her idol on him, and that caused Gret to go home. Yes, in this universe, they still have the, Anyway, Drew is really thankful, and he ultimately, after a lot of fighting, gets out at Final 4 due to a vote, Courage lost tiebreaker, anything, really. Gabby would hug him goodbye, thanking him for everything. In this universe, the Final 4 is Fiore, Alec, Gabby, and Drew. There's my idea with Drew. They're kind of similar, and they do need some fixing with some plot holes and everything. But for Drew, it would be so cool to see him do this, and although this wasn't in the script, he would work so well as a villain. Like, I know his character, that isn't what Drew is, but he would work well as a villain. I just want to say that. Anyways, Nick.
I'm used to it.
Oh my gosh! Is that Kashmir? Do you know how many animals had to die for that?
Don't worry, love. It ain't from your house, cat.
I have an entire video on Nick. Check it out on the iCard. #plugin. No. Moving on. Nick was really mistreated in the new season of Disventure. In my opinion, I understand he probably make Final 4 again because of how the season is really done, but really turning him this dark with no development and basically destroying his character in and out, sad. That's why I have 2 arc ideas. One where he was always a piece of crap, and another where he's a simple, nice dude with brain cells. Arc number 1 is where he was always a jerk. In this, he never got to Alliance. It was planned to beat First Boot as soon as they lost, but since the Will situation happened, he realized he actually still had a chance in the game. He started being nice to others around him, especially Ashley and Lil, and actually began building friendships and started becoming a better person than before. But this all will come to a halt in episode 4, when Alec was too annoyed with him to accept his quote-unquote change of heart, and he got eliminated. When he's sadly walking out to the bus, Ashley and Lil would come and hug Nick, saying he was someone they now call their friend. A little cheesy, but it would be wholesome, okay? The 3 would hug it out, and Nick would go to the bus, happy. Anyway, arc number 2 is where he's basically a sympathetic dude, and he has brain cells. He started talking and building up a decent friendship with Will, and he had heard the situation. He had several doubts, but he also didn't think a child could do that. So kind of like Ashley's position, Lil would talk to Nick before the elimination, and Nick would vote with Will. Will and Fiore would go into a tiebreaker in which Fiore would outsmart him and win somehow. Will would go out, and Ashley would blame herself, but Will says it's fine and goes off with Nick. Lil and Ashley hugging him by. Instead of being really dumb and believing Lil burned all his stuff, he decides to believe Lil while pretending he believes Fiore. Ashley still doesn't think Fiore did anything, so she votes for Alec. And while Nick and Lil vote for Fiore, this causes the majority on Nick, but he says it's fine and at least they tried and to win against Fiore. They all agree, and to that ends Nick's story. I get they are kind of similar, but the fact they end at the same point is kind of odd, but that's just what I wrote. I don't know. Honestly, both of these situations in my own are better than what we got. It'd be a lot more entertaining too, and it wouldn't be a waste of Nick's character. Alright, Lil.
I'm Lil, National Girl Scout Troop Leader. I'm going to win that $1 million, and I'm going to do it for my girls. I'll do whatever it takes.
Lil is such a cool character. Girl got robbed with Ashley in episode 5. As much as I understand why and how it had to happen, it hurts. For her, I only have 1 arc. If you want a second arc, the one already in the show is what I have chosen. Again, I don't have much ideas for Lil, but this arc, basically at episode 5, only Ashley gets eliminated, no insane twist. Ashley and Lil would hug, and she said, "You can do this," and win against Fiore. After that point, Lil would become Fiore's main rival. Purple would win immunity till merge, and throughout, Lil would warn everyone about Fiore continuously. Not many would believe her, but some would. Fiore would get very angry and try to target Lil, and Lil would try to target Fiore, but the targets had to continue to be switched due to the plot. Anyway, soon is Final 6 with 3 on each side. Ellie, Alec, Fiore versus Lil, Miriam, and Jake. Don't question how this happens. And ultimately, in an intense tiebreaker, Lil comes out on top with Fiore living in the end. We would make the finale with one of Ellie or Alec, because yeah. And I know there's lots of unanswered questions, but this is mainly just a base arc that I had. It definitely needs to be expanded upon, like how the final 6 even came to be that way, but maybe one day in the future. I love the idea of this arc personally. It really allows Lil to shine a lot. I don't know if she'd win or get second, but she'd have a huge chance to win against whoever, more specifically Alec, but yeah. Anyways, on to Ashley.
Do you come from an urban city?
Yup.
I figured. You look a little intimidated here.
Somehow Ashley got even more robbed. Girl got out because of a stupid twist. But anyways, she's easily one of the most loved characters in this movie, but I completely get why. Her VA, which I need to start praising these VAs more, they all did so great in each character, brought the character to life so well, and she's a character that's just incredible. I love her backstory, although we didn't get to learn too much of it. I think it's great base, her character itself, etc. I have 2 arc ideas in mind for Ashley, not including the one in the show. Arc 1 will focus a lot more on Wishley. Basically, in this arc, what would happen instead of Will going home with the child, like deciding this was kind of stupid, Fiore would go with Lil, and she would frame Lil instead. Lil would go, but Will and Ashley would vote for Alec. Nick would vote for Lil, and as much as it hurt him decide, Ellie, Fiore, and Alec would vote for Lil, and Lil would vote for Fiore. This would cause ultimate fights in the alliance. Nick would go next, and soon it'd just be Wishley versus Ellie, Fiore, and Alec. In episode 5, before they vote, Will would realize he was in love with Ashley, but he also realized he was screwed. He realized that she would have a lot better chance, and so he would sacrifice himself for Ashley. They would have their moment on the bus, and then Ashley would serve him vengeance. During merge, she'd work hard to get out Alec, Fiore, and Ellie, more so Fiore and Alec, and get revenge for Will and Lil also. Throughout it, she'd make the finale with either Alec, Fiore, or Ellie and would win. And even if she didn't win and got runner-up, she'd still be supported by Will, Lil, and whoever else she would click with during the arc. So yeah, arc 2 is slightly similar yet different at the same time. Basically everything up until episode 5 changes. They give a twist at episode 5, making a redemption battle between Will and Ashley, and they return to the game. Save team, they return at the end of episode 6. So Lil would sacrifice herself so Ashley could continue to the game. Ashley would thank Lil and return to the purple team like Gabby's entrance before Charles attacked. She overheard the plans to vote off Ellie, and although she didn't like Ellie too much, she realized that Alec and Fiore would vote her off next. She's immune from redemption. So Ashley would go to Ellie by telling her. Ellie would give her the benefit of the doubt, get the idol from Gabby plant, causing Fiore to go home and Alec to be screwed. And since Ashley has already returned, I don't think they do the team swap twist with Gret and Fiore. So Ashley and Ellie would become close friends. Ellie would continue to apologize. Ashley would eventually forgive her. And I think she'd get close to the finale, but Ellie would ultimately beat her. And Ashley would say best of luck to Ellie, the two would hug, and Ashley would just go. There's honestly a lot more directions you can go with Ashley. These are just the main ones I had, and yeah. Alright, now for our final pre-merge boot. Hashtag Dan Nation!
Can I ask you something? Why are you dressed like that?
What a surprise. Another young whippersnapper who loves to dress for attention.
And the purple NPC has finally fallen. I did not predict him be adding onto this list, but hey, here we are. When I'm adding an art to this character, I want to give him basically personality, more development. We know more about every other character rather than Dan, to be honest. There's many things you could do with Dan, he could even win probably, but I just wanted one arc with Dan, which is basically fixing up the series though. Before, I wanted to provide some more context when I've been playing. Dan was the person to see Gabby go off to find Ellie in episode 3. He should have realized that in fact she wouldn't want to vote for her. If she's willing to walk 30 minutes to an hour just to see her for a few minutes, don't you think she at least has a little trust in Ellie? As well, there's several more instances Dan has legit ignored people's emotions. He basically only thinks for the game. There are multiple reasons why he could be this way. That's what I really wanted to focus on because that can offer lots of potential. It adds more development and helps him as a character. Not only that, but he himself felt like he barely had any emotions. He genuinely bonded with Gabby, yet he didn't try to fight with her and even fight for her when the guys were suggesting to vote her off. And even in a strategic sense, he could easily work with her. I just don't see why he wouldn't push further to save her. So here's me trying to fix those issues. In episode 1, add an extra Gabby and Dan bonding scene. You can add it at camp or whatever, but pushing the Gabby and Dan friendship more will make Dan's ultimate betrayal in the next few episodes hit a lot harder and be a lot more meaningful. In episode 2 and 3, I accidentally mixed these up, so hopefully I get this in the right order. Add another Gabby and Dan bonding scene, but more importantly, add short scenes / some scenes of Dan bonding with each of the guys somewhat. During episode 3 to around that time, this makes him trusting them a lot more sense because ultimately Dan never really had a bonding scene with any of the guys, so that would help a lot. And we're also going to give him a tragic boy tragic backstory to where he was the outcast. Basically, he was outcasted from the guys group, or basically outcasted by the whole school, but more specifically like the group of guys or something along those lines. So the fact he was so willing to work with the guys automatically makes a bit more sense. Didn't judge him and they accepted him as he was, and they would outnumber for the alliance like in the original. This time, however, when they brought up Gabby, he would actually fight for Gabby, but they would fight back, and he would back off and agree as much as he didn't really want to. It was his first time feeling like he had a friend group, a full friend group, and he wanted to savor that moment, so he just decided to agree ultimately, as much as it hurt him to vote off Gabby. And also, the spider fear will now be connected to trauma. Oh my gosh. He would have tried at a younger age, as revealed as a later episode, to make friends with some other people in the class, but when he did, and when he thought that he wasn't an outcast anymore, they would prank him with many spiders. This would cause him to never want to face spiders again. He would be a lot more hesitant at his fear this go around, but Gabby, one of the guys, would comfort him about it, and he would gain the confidence needed to face his fear. Episode 4, when Jake would say Drew voted himself, Dan would look down, ashamed, instead of scream. And he thought, finally, basically here's a confessional I had. I don't know why I had this into the script, but I thought finally I would get along with someone like a group or something. I wasn't an outcasted anymore. I thought they were just different. I guess I was wrong. I know this is similar to what Jake said in that one scene, but still. Throughout the episode, Dan would continue to apologize to Gabby, but all attempts would be ignored, although Gabby would be very hurt still. Dan would not truly understand this that well, because again, he doesn't understand emotions that well, as explained. Anyway, he would just hang out with the guys and feel really bad for what had happened. And Gabby would apologize to him. Would plan to apologize again later. He would go on the phone with Franny, his sister, who would pretty much be his only friend. He would light up talking with her, since the show can probably broadcast publicly, I think. He would also move the topic to Gabby and the guys. Franny would suggest to keep trying and just explain Gabby the situation he's in, because she seems understanding, at least from what has been recorded and was shown on TV. He would agree and would continue to try. He would also lose trust in the guys if he hadn't already. He would also start noticing the Ellie and Gabby thing more so. Even if he is oblivious, he would realize something is going on. He would be more shocked at himself for managing to do so. Anyway, episode 6, he would explain his outcast backstory, why he's been doing what he's been doing, and he would allow Gabby to decide, saying he completely understands why she isn't forgiving him and just wanted to get his entire side out. Brett would still try to manipulate Gabby and try to get Gabby to get Dan, and Gabby would tell him that when she found him, she forgave him, which would not be a lie, that she would walk and talk, and Dan would still fall into the hole. Gabby would go say she would go for help, plus all events still happened. Episode 7. Most events at the end of this episode stay the same, except he's not as stupid. We get a scene to where Miriam is suggesting Ellie to Dan and telling him to go tell Gabby. Dan would warn Miriam that it probably wouldn't work, and Miriam would ask to elaborate. Dan would explain the episode 3 situation. Gabby would overhear and would think the two are voting for Ellie. She would then run off and would choose to vote up Dan plus the idol, use the idol again. After that happens, though, revealed Dan would try to talk with Gabby about the vote, but he'd be ignored. He would wonder why this is happening. Now he would ask why she did what she did. Gabby would explain what she heard, and he would say that he voted for Tom and that's why the votes were tied. Dan would then walk out. Gabby would ask if that's what he would suggest when he came up to her, and he would say yep, but he understands what she heard and understands why she did what she did. Gabby would then hug Dan, apologizing, and he would forgive her, happy as he has another true friend. This was so long, and I don't even know if it's that good, but I hope it is. It's just some random idea I had while making the script for this video, and I know this is more of a rewrite, but I wanted to go for that angle anyways with Dan, because I feel like that's what he needed, not more missed potential arcs. But anyway, that's the end of this video. It was long, holy crap, I did not expect it to be this long. Anyway, if you have any additional ideas on these rewrites or anything else, I'd love to hear it in the comments. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I'll see you next time. Bye!